increase by 40% over the next 25 years, Canada is well positioned to support this growing requirement for energy resources. Non-OECD countries will account for nearly 90% of this growth in energy demand, with China expected to consume nearly 70% more energy than the United States by 2035. Energy consumption in India, Indonesia, Brazil, and the Middle East is expected to grow even faster. Our country is a large, safe, reliable, and cost-effective supplier of energy and will be for many years to come. We are currently 6th in terms of the production of oil in the world at more than 3 million barrels a day, and our proven reserves are the 3rd largest in the world at 174 billion barrels. Significantly, Canada's oil sands production will be critical to the world's energy security. About 80% of the world's oil reserves are controlled either by national governments or state oil companies, which means they're not readily accessible to private development. Of the remaining 20%, Canada holds about 60% in its oil sands, so we've obviously attracted foreign capital. Adding to our oil advantage is that Canada is the 3rd largest producer of natural gas globally, with reserves as high as 1,300 trillion cubic feet, equal in economic value to our oil reserves. And we're only starting to tap the potential. Currently, 5 liquefied natural gas projects are being developed for our Pacific coast, so Canada could export 9 billion cubic feet a day, or as LNG, 66 million tons annually. To give you a sense of that, Japan, which represents 1/3 of the LNG market, consumes about 80 million tons. So investors are connecting the supply and demand dots, which is why we're seeing partnerships such as LNG Canada involving Shell, Mitsubishi, KOGAS, and PetroChina. And this is what brought me 2 weeks ago to Japan and Korea, which represent almost half the global LNG market. And there is a tremendous complementarity there, as there is with oil. We have the opportunity to open a totally new market and to diversify our markets at the moment when Japan and Korea need to diversify their sources of supply.
The public opinion on oil and gas development is not nearly as negative as you might perceive it to be from reading the newspaper. We do polling day in, day out, and what it shows is that most Canadians, 60 or 70%, support responsible development of oil and gas. So the negativity you see in the media and the reaction of politicians to that negativity is there. It's real. We have to deal with it, but it's not as negative as sometimes you would perceive it to be. But to get back to the point about, so what do we do about all this? I think social license, as I refer to it, is bigger than any company. It's bigger than any project, and it's really something the industry has to tackle as a collective. We need to collaborate. We need to work together. We need to be a whole lot more visible in communicating than we've been in the past. But you can do all of that if you don't underpin it with performance improvement. You're not going to be credible, and you're not going to be effective. So I think it goes back to the remarks I made earlier. We need to continue to raise the bar of performance. We need to take the lead as industry, as we've done on the hydraulic fracturing issue, putting out best practices, putting out guidelines, enforcing those to the extent we can with our members. So moving the ball, which frankly will pull regulators with it over time, supporting how we play in the public policy arena. We can push back on everything a regulator or a politician might wish to move forward in terms of raising the bar of performance, or we can say, look, to maintain social license, to enhance social license, we recognize we need to raise the bar over time in terms of the regulations that we operate under. We ought to support that if it's done right. Monitoring, transparency and reporting, all of those things. So I think it's how we play in the public policy arena, how we perform, how we communicate, all of those are factors, and we have to do that as an industry as opposed to individual companies in my view.
I I think the other issue is industry understanding. When people say they're concerned about environmental issues, that is a very personal local issue. Often the issue is about, and when you go in and you drill in areas, you'll create dusty roads and can tear up the roads and stuff. That's a concern for local people, far more than the overall issue with respect to drilling or carbon. It's a local issue, and I think industry forgot about that as well. So I think we're doing a better job on that front. We've got to work with the Quebec government. I think Monsieur Charest had an understanding of what was trying to be done. There is a cultural issue in Quebec. I think with Hydro-Quebec is obviously a national icon in Quebec, and Gazmet has had to fight that for a very long time. But again, when it comes down to jobs and economic benefits, and it costed $1,000 lower last winter in people's heating bills in the United States, that will have a certain degree of resonance, I think, over time. So we've got more work to be able to do. We've got to make sure that the jobs occur evenly across North America, and we'll do better at that.